We have Erin Newman with us today, leading Overcoming Real and Perceived Obstacles to Success. Definitely type in your questions in the Q&A as we're going. I'll flip off my camera and mute myself so you can take it away. But if you all have any questions as well, please send things to the chat Q&A box. We want to hear from you. You ready, Erin?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. So as Mary already said, I'm Erin Newman. I'm a mindset coach for entrepreneurs, and I help them to move through their doubts and their blocks and their fears so they can finally make the income they want to be making in their businesses. And I'm super excited to be here tonight. And this webinar is going to be very, very short on slides and boring stuff, and very big on really getting into your personal stuff. So if you don't already, grab a piece of pen and paper, journal, whatever you've got nearby, little notepad, whatever works. And this works better actually using pen to paper as opposed to typing something on your computer, just because of the way it accesses your subconscious mind, which is what we'll be diving into tonight. So like I said, if you don't already, would love it if you guys could get a piece of paper and a pen, pencil, whatever, marker. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Let's make that full screen. Okay. Okay. I hope you guys can see that okay. Yeah, so like I kind of already hinted at, what we're doing tonight is really looking at, what are those obstacles that are getting in your way. And the way we're going to start is really by figuring out, before we even go any further, where you want to be. You know, what's in your heart? What's your big dream? Maybe that's starting your first tech company. Maybe that's switching roles wherever you currently are. Maybe that's becoming an entrepreneur and getting out there on your own. Maybe it's learning a new skill set. So what I'm going to ask you guys as our first exercise is to really write down on that piece of paper. And then if you're feeling really brave, share it in the chat where you'd love to be 3 years from now. And some of the questions we can ask ourselves there are, you know, what does it look like as I'm going about my day? Who am I surrounding myself with? What kind of physical space am I in? Is it an office building? Is it at home? Is it a mixture? What kind of work am I doing? What's that work that feels so amazing to me? Where would I love to see myself in 3 years? If I had to tell a friend that I was meeting for coffee, oh my God, my life has changed so much. It's so awesome now. All these really amazing things happened. What does that look like? What are all those amazing things? Again, maybe that's starting your own business. Maybe that's a different role. You know, maybe that's running your own company. And what I would really love to request to your guys is that you come to this from that heart space instead of from that space of like, well, I should be running my own business by then. I should be doing this and that, right? All those shoulds that we carry from childhood into the present moment that tell us, you know, well, you should be an accountant because, you know, that's what you studied. So of course that makes logical, rational sense for you to do. But instead, really pull that from your heart. You know, what would I love to be doing 3 years from now? Again, if I was telling this friend like, oh my God, my life is so awesome now. I'm making money doing this stuff I love, and this is what it looks like. You know, or maybe if you're already doing that, like what does that fuller expression look like for you 3 years from now? What does it look like to be really stepping into awesomeness, you know, making money, doing what you love, whatever that looks like for you. And again, if you're feeling really brave and you want to drop that in the chat, that would be awesome. But otherwise, you know, really take that in for yourself. What does that look like? And I'm going to give you guys just a minute here. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to give you a minute here to kind of name that for yourself. Let's see. I'm not sure if I can access the chat, Mary, or not.
Let's see.
I think we had.
See on the bottom of your screen a little box that says chat. It should be next to like the share controls and all of that.
I think it's at the top of my screen. There we go. But when I hit the actual word chat, it's not showing anything. Maybe it went away.
Do you want me to read what folks have shared?
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Okay, cool. One person shared, I'd like to be, let's see. Close this one other thing. Awesome. Okay. One person said, I'd like to be designing social engagements that involve digital technology in physical spaces, which seems so absurd right now with the current shutdown. And then someone else just joined and said, please share the ask.
Sure. So the ask was 3 years from now, if you are living your most awesome, fulfilling life, what does that look like? You know, what are the things that you're doing as you go about your day? What does your work look like? What does your physical environment look like? You know, maybe even things might be coming up here around your relationships with people. You know, I'd love this great tribe of friendships. I'd love, you know, a really great intimate relationship with someone, you know, to be brought into my life. Whatever's coming up for you. I mean, obviously here we're focused on moving your tech world forward, but what's coming up there for you around that ideal world? Again, we're just putting it out 3 years in the future, just because that gives us kind of enough time mentally to believe that we can get there. So, okay. All right. So I'm going to kind of do a big reveal here. When we talk about overcoming real and perceived obstacles, and, you know, I'll just be really honest. My brother, when I share things like this, he always says, but Erin, there really are real obstacles. You know, there really are real things out there that hold people back from getting ahead. And that's definitely true. You know, we all come from very different backgrounds. We all come from very different socioeconomic backgrounds, diverse backgrounds. And at the same time, most of our obstacles are right up here, right? They're in our head. And not to say, again, that they're not represented in the world, that those things don't exist in our world right now and that we don't need to change those things. But most of our obstacles are us holding ourselves back, right? So how do we deal with that? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. How do we hold ourselves back and what can we do about it to shift that so that we can really get to that next level of success, whatever that looks like for you? Okay. So what do you believe is possible for you? So we worked on just now really defining what that looks like. Okay, here's where I am 3 years from now. This is what I'm doing. This is what an awesome, successful life looks like to me. So now I'm going to ask you guys on that same piece of paper, and here's where we get really deep, is what holds you back from getting there? What are your reasons that you're not already there? And we're going to take a little bit of time here. Again, I'm going to get quiet. We're going to take a little bit of time here for you to just list out everything that comes up here, even if it sounds totally crazy, even if you're like, okay, well, that's crazy. That's not a real reason. These are the things your subconscious believes about why you're not able to get there. So we really want to list them out so we can work with them. No one has to see this. You don't have to put it in the chat if you don't want to. But really get deep around, why aren't you there? What's coming up for you? So again, I'm going to be quiet here. And when you think you're done listing things, then list a couple more. It's weird to do this when I can't see everybody. So again, here we're looking at what are your personal reasons why it's not possible for you to get there. Or why you haven't gotten there yet, if that's an easier way to phrase it. And now I'm going to ask you guys one more question around this. And it's a little bit similar, but we're getting at different aspects of what your subconscious believes here. Who is the person who's already there? What do they look like? Maybe physically, but you know, a lot of times it's things like, well, they're more organized, or they have a trust fund, or they have family support, or they have this amazing network that I don't have, right? They have an investment at their side, right? Investors, sorry, at their side already, right? So let's just picture for a minute that person who's already there, wherever you want to be. What do they have that you don't have? And again, we're looking for everything that may sound crazy to you. You know, one of the ones that always comes up for me is, well, she has straight hair. You know, I have curly hair. She has straight hair. The $1 Million Coach has straight hair, which again, it's crazy, but this is what my subconscious thinks. Not as much anymore, but that one comes up. Okay, in the spirit of webinarness, I'm going to continue, but those two exercises we just did, really defining your ideal life, looking into what that looks like, and then kind of coming up with the reasons why you're not there so that you really get into your subconscious blocks, that's some juicy work. That's work you guys can do, you know, at any point when you're feeling stuck. You know, really vision yourself into that future you, and then figure out, okay, what's holding me back from getting there? Because that's where the work is, right? If this person over here looks different than me, again, doesn't have to be physical, sometimes it is, but you know, if she looks different than I do, what are those things that I either need to shift or grow into, right? If it's a specific skill set, that's maybe something that I can grow into, right? Okay. So I want to offer something that gets a little bit controversial, right? And that is that the person who is already where you want to be, maybe you came up with some of these reasons, right? Like maybe she looks different, right? That's the one I was just naming with the curly hair example. Maybe she has a different background or education than I do, right? Maybe they have the MBA. Maybe they have the 10 years experience at a big tech company. Maybe they have, I don't know, the coding background that I don't have, right? Or a lot of times we'll say, well, they just have better luck, right? They got into that place because of luck. And then my personal favorite is, well, they got there because of really hard work. And I haven't worked that hard yet. Or maybe I have worked that hard, but it didn't look like the right kind of hard work yet. And, you know, I think I kind of gave a spoiler alert at the beginning of this, but guys, all of those things are in our heads. And here's how you can check this one for yourself. Let's focus specifically on the hard work one, because that one is, it's so huge in our culture. It's so prevalent. The hustle culture, the, you know, push effort, force things into place, right? Got to work hard. You got to work hard, right? That is so prevalent in our culture. And here's how you can check for yourself whether that's true or not. Think of an example. You may be able to find one in our political system of somebody who golfs way more than they actually work, right? But they still have millions coming in to their bank every day. Maybe they're not working that hard, right? And then you can think about somebody who is really working hard. Maybe they're working 2 jobs, single mom. She's killing it. But maybe she's not exactly where she wants to be in life. That's how you can kind of check that one for yourself. Hard work does not equate with getting to where you want to be. And which is not me saying that you don't have to work. Definitely. We definitely have to take actions. I don't know anybody who can just sit on their couch and eat potato chips and have everything wonderful come to them. I'm sure those people exist. I have yet to meet one. For the rest of us, we have to take some action, but it doesn't have to be that grinding, hard work, right? That so many of us are raised with, right? In order to get ahead, you have to work really hard. That's what we were raised with. Okay, so what is the difference then? What is the difference between the people who get to golf every day and still have millions coming in, right? What's the difference there? Again, this is going to feel really controversial when I first say it, but it's simply because they believe they deserve to be there. Have you ever had that experience in your life where maybe it was when you were applying to college, or maybe it was when you were getting a scholarship for something, or maybe you were applying for a job you really loved, and you just knew, like, yeah, I'm there. Like, it was just already a foregone conclusion in your head. You didn't even think about it. It didn't even cross your mind to question it, you know? Maybe it was something even unrelated to work, where you're just like, yeah, okay, that's there for me. You don't even question it. You just know, right? When we have that level of belief about something, that we actually deserve this thing, we are totally deserving of it, then the actions almost take on this quality of like being guided, right? They take on this quality of you're just in the flow, you're in the zone, you know exactly who to call next, you know exactly which opportunities to show up for, you know exactly where you are in that job process, and you don't even question it, right? Which doesn't mean there aren't hard moments on that path. There are. But when you're in that space of total deservingness, then you guys know what that feels like, right? That flow feeling of like, I got this, right? And the actions feel just really easy. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? This is so hard because I'm like, I can't see anybody. I'm used to talking where I can see your faces and you can tell me whether I'm crazy or not, right? Okay. So you guys have heard people say this before, and I'm not going to be the first or the last one to say this. And there's so much science out there around this now, but our thoughts really do create our reality. And what I mean by that, I hope this is the next slide, is that our subconscious thoughts really create our reality. And our subconscious always wins. Any battle, we put our conscious mind up against our subconscious mind, our subconscious is always going to win. So let me give you guys an example. You know, when we were talking in the very beginning about your ideal world and what you want to see there. If in that list of things that you came up with for reasons why you're not there yet, if in that list it was something like, well, all my friends would hate me if I got to that level, right? And again, on a conscious level, you and I having this conversation, you'd be like, Erin, that's crazy. Of course I don't believe that. My friends would still love me. They would love it if I had that level of success. They would love it if I founded my own company and became the next Bill Gates. They would love that. Of course they would. They're all supportive of me. But your subconscious mind is saying to you, no, they wouldn't. They would hate you. They were already asking questions about, why do you spend so much time writing that program? Why do you spend so much time on the internet, right? Or whatever. I'm just making that one up. But like, you know, for me personally, when I vision myself into this next level, I have this real hit of like, oh, the friends that you have right now, they're not going to like that, right? Again, consciously, that's crazy because they love me, I love them. Of course, they're going to be supportive, right? I can consciously have this conversation with you. But when I do that same exercise of writing out and journaling out, okay, reasons why I'm not there yet, what would that look like if I actually stepped into that? My subconscious is like, ooh, those people are not going to like you anymore. They're not going to think you're a good person if you make that much money, right? And a lot of what's happening there, or all of what's happening there really, is our childhood beliefs about success, right? So if you guys have anything like, for instance, rich people are jerks, you know, wealthy people don't help out the poor, money doesn't grow on trees. That's another good one, right? Because that one's reinforcing that belief of like, you're going to have to work really hard to get there. And so who wants to work that hard, right? Who wants to push themselves into an early grave? Nobody, right? At least our subconscious doesn't. And so anytime there's a place for scariness, anytime there's a place for rejection, anytime there's a place for, if I do this thing, people will reject me, right? And it could be a very small way. It could be just somebody didn't like my Facebook post that I put out there. Somebody didn't like what I shared about this new company that I'm founding, right? Anytime there's that level of scariness around something, your subconscious is going to be going in the background like, no, 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 let's just stay safe. Let's just stay in our comfort zone. Let's just keep quiet, right? And so what that means is that you start to self-sabotage. That's what happens when your subconscious doesn't believe you deserve to be there. Again, it's all those reasons that you listed in the beginning. That's what your subconscious is telling you about why you don't deserve to be there. So the next question is usually, well, great, how do we shift that? How do we get our subconscious to shut up, right? One thing to know is we're never going to shut our subconscious up. It is there to protect us, to keep us safe from harm, to keep us safe from the tigers, which the tigers have now morphed into random people on Facebook, but your subconscious is there to keep you safe. We want it there. We want you to not, walk up to a saber-toothed tiger, right? It's just that now in our modern culture, that has morphed and changed and become this fear of putting yourself out there in any way, right? That fear of rejection, that fear of what will people say, that fear of what will my family say, right? That's all in there. How do we move through that? How do we move past that? The first really important thing is what we just did in the very beginning. We're catching the actual thought. So anytime you feel that sense of clinchiness, of like, oh my God, that feels really scary, or just maybe you can't even define it with an actual thought or with a fear, but just you feel that sense of like clenching in your body. So this usually happens around financial goals. Like for instance, if you say, I want to be making X per month, right? Let's say your awesome world that you visioned in for 3 years from now, you're telling yourself, okay, and at that level, I'm going to be making 20,000 every month, or I want to be making 50,000 every month. Let's just use 50 because it'll bring up a lot of stuff. I want to be making 50,000 at that level. You may be able to feel it if you're really quiet, a sort of clenching in your body, a sort of feeling of, it's fear, but you may just feel it as like a tension in your stomach, in your chest. Sometimes it's in your shoulders or your head. Just feel that slight bit of clenching when you think of, oh God, what would it take to make 50,000 a month? And so then we want to be able to catch the thoughts that are beneath that, right? That say, that would mean I'd have to work every weekend and never see my family again. That would mean I'd have to give up all those fun retreats I've been planning to do. That would mean I'd have to give up my Netflix binging that I've been doing, right? And so again, your subconscious is saying, that doesn't sound good. We're going to just chill. We're just going to chill over here. We're not going to go out for this big thing. We're not going to go out for that 50K goal because that feels kind of scary. So we're just going to chill. So again, what we start doing is that self-sabotage process. And that can look like a bunch of different things, right? Maybe you guys know your own patterns of self-sabotage, but what some of them look like, did I have the slide on this? I think I do. Maybe not. Okay, so what some of those processes look like is you forget to do the important things, right? Like I was supposed to follow up with those 3 people I met at the networking event who are probably really amazing leads. They work in the kind of companies I want to work in. I'm not going to do that this week. In fact, you don't even have the thought of, I'm not going to do that this week. You just forget to do it, right? Or you get to the end of your day and not saying you haven't not had a long, stressful day, but you get to the end of your day and you're like, yeah, that thing I signed up for that I thought was going to be cool, I'm just going to skip that, right? I don't need to do that right now. Or that person I was going to get in touch with, I'm just going to skip that. Another way we self-sabotage is we say, I need a lot of clarity around this before I can get started. I need a lot of research before I can get started. Oh, I'm just going to keep researching this. I'm just going to keep doing trainings, right? Instead of like actually putting something out there into the world. Those are some ways we self-sabotage. So again, the first way to stop this is to actually look into those thoughts. What are those thoughts saying to you about what it would take to get to 50K? Again, I'm just using 50K as an example because that pulls up a whole mess of stuff for most people. And so we really want to look into, what's it telling you there? What's it saying to you about that financial goal? What's your subconscious telling you there? So we catch the thought by writing it down. Most of you watching this are going to be like, I'll just think through this process. I don't need to write this down, right? That takes too long. There's something really powerful about writing it down. First of all, it helps to release it already from you. It helps for that thought to process out. This is something, if you've ever been in therapy, they do a lot of this, write down the thoughts. You can actually see it and then you can dispute it, right? So that's the kind of same thing we're doing here is, what is that thought saying to you about your financial goal or your personal goal, right? You can do this with anything. You can do it with health. You can do it with fitness, whatever. But you're looking into, what is my subconscious saying? And you do that by writing that thought down. What's the craziest thought you have about getting to that next level of success? That's the block. That's the subconscious fear there. Okay, we catch it. That's what we do first, which we already did. So you guys are ahead of the game right here. Okay. And then we actually need to choose a different thought after that. So when you see the crazy thought, when you're like, okay, I would lose all of my friends, again, not real, but I would lose all of my friends if I started making 50K, right? They'd be asking me to buy them expensive dinners and I really don't want to do that. So it's not happening, right? So we want to then choose a different thought that says, I'm making 50K per month and I'm doing it with joy and ease, and all of my current friendships or all of my current tribe is there with me, or however you want to phrase it. With the knowledge that your people may or may not be there 5 years from now, 3 years from now with you. But what we're looking for is a different thought, is a better thought that you can choose instead. Each time you hear that old subconscious programming, each time you hear that tape that plays in the background, right? That tape of, I'm not good enough. If this happens, then X, Y, and Z factors will happen in my life, right? That old tape that I've yet to meet a person who does not have some version of this tape playing. I don't know, maybe the Dalai Lama doesn't, but every other person I've ever met has some version of this little tape playing in their heads that says, oh, you're not enough. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do that because blah, 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 blah. The trick is finding that different thought, right? Choosing a different thought faster so that that lag time between the time when your subconscious has time to kick in and you choosing a conscious thought is shorter and shorter and shorter, creating that confidence there. Okay. So how do we choose a different thought? What kind of different thoughts are we looking for? We're looking for them to be specific, personal, present tense. What does that mean? So specific is, I'm earning $50,000 a month. It's very specific. We want to stay away from things like, I'm happy, I'm rich, I'm successful, because I'm sure you guys have heard this a million times, but those aren't objective. We can't really quantify what that looks like. What does happy mean to you? Does it mean I'm coming home early 5 nights a week? I'm leaving the office at 6 every day. That signifies happiness to me. If so, then that's what you want to start creating in your new thought, right? We want to get really specific about what that happiness means to you. And then we want them to be personal. So when we have this new thought, it needs to be first person. I am, I choose. So that it's not this, when we phrase things in the passive, they become passive. So we want it to be very powerful, very much in present tense, personal. It's already here for me. And so this is getting a little bit into the woo-woo world, but we want it to be present tense so that your mind is not continually putting it in the future. Meaning, if it's I would or I could, right, then we're already putting that way out there and we're saying, I can never have it. It's like that revolving, never ending target. It's always getting pushed out a couple weeks, right? So we want it to be present tense, as if it's actually happening for you right now, as if it's actually here for you right now. And then one day you're going to wake up and be like, oh, I'm there. I'm already embodying that. That thought that I chose, I'm there, already doing it. Yeah, and we want to use those really powerful words. I am, I choose, I decide. Again, this gets a little bit into the woo-woo, but our language is so important to how we define our world. If you look at other cultures and what types of things they put language around, you can see where the importance of things are, right? I'm sure you guys have heard that example about the Inuit and like 16 words for snow, right? They need 16 words for snow, right? So we want to make our language really powerful here. I am, I choose, I decide. Those are powerful words to describe what you're doing. And they also make sure that the responsibility for your success lies with you, which is huge, right? When we can stop saying, oh, it's out there. It's some obstacle that I think is real, right? And so what may be going through your mind right now is, Erin, but there are some really real obstacles to me getting to where I want to be. I really do need those investors. I really do need these things happening in my life, right? And what I would offer to you is that all of those things will come when your mindset around them starts to shift. When you start to believe it's really possible for you, then the craziest stuff starts happening. You go to one meeting and the perfect investor is there, or you send out one email to an old friend and you just happen to tell them about what you're doing and they're like, oh, I need to connect you with blah, blah, blah. I mean, those stories, you know them, you've heard them, right? So that starts with us choosing to fully embody what we want in our lives. And you do it with words like this: I am, I choose, and I decide. I think that's the last slide. Yeah. So I would love to hear from you guys, questions that you have. If you're like, this lady's crazy, any thoughts, comments, I would love to hear from you guys. This is my day job, so I'm so into this stuff and so excited to have a conversation about it.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. And I saw a question come through in the chat. Can you quantify joy, or is it like happy in quotes?
I think you definitely have to quantify joy. Yes. So what does that joy mean for you? Obviously, if you're just going out and having a conversation with somebody, you don't have to quantify it. But when you're setting up those statements for yourself, definitely, what does joy mean to you? Because again, it gets expressed in a bunch of different ways. It might mean you're getting to take more trips, you're getting to be with your family more, you're having more time for self-care. And there's nothing against adding things like with joy to the end of those statements, but really making sure that the statement itself is really specific and quantified. I'm coming home at 5 every day. Whatever joy means for you.
Someone just commented, we need these sessions during the present times. Agreed. And how serendipitous is it that we planned this way before any of this months ago, and then all this happened and it was weirdly perfect timing. And I think agreed, Suresh, this is something we all need to hear right now. Another question just came through. This is great. Oh, awesome. How can we not be afraid of past failures? Or how can we not be afraid that past failures will define the future? So we're afraid to make more mistakes.
Awesome that you already saw that. And I'm sorry I can't see everybody's names on there. But you know what?
Portia.
I think if I stop the share, I can do it, right?
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, now it pops up on the side. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Okay, Portia, I'm not caught up in the chat yet, but so I would ask you to really even dig deeper into what those past failures were. So if it was, I tried to start a business before and I failed, what are your specific reasons why you believe you failed? What are those? And we really want to just journal around them, really get into like the lowest bottom level of them. Like, I failed because, and then even go maybe even deeper, because there's probably a deeper level to that. I failed because I'm not good at the finances, right? Okay. What does that mean? What's below that? Why aren't you good at finances? Again, conscious level, we can all agree that you're awesome at finances, but what's your subconscious telling you about why you're not good at finances? Maybe it's, okay, well, my mom was never good at finances. And so I never saw a strong female figure in my life being good at the finances. And so I can't do it, right? Again, consciously, we know this is all crazy, but if your subconscious is believing it, then that's where we really want to dig deep. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of you, Mary, but I see
Go for it. Yeah, go ahead.
Manish, I hope I'm saying that right. Manish, probably Manish. What are some ways you self-motivate in times like these? How do I become more focused and disregard any distractions? I'm not the person to ask about distractions. I'm not good for that. But here's how I self-motivate. I spend an hour every morning in meditation, journaling, and doing this work, the work that we just did. Like, I mean, this is like, I'll show you guys. This is like, 2 days worth of my journaling around, okay, well, what does that next level look like for me? What's my subconscious beliefs there, right? So I don't expect everybody to do an hour, but if you can do 5 minutes, 10 minutes of just sitting with that vision that we created in the beginning, really breathing into his energy, really breathing into her energy, that's where you're really super duper aligned actions are going to come from. And those are, frankly, probably all you need to do that day. So if you spend 5 minutes sitting in his energy or her energy, that person who's already where you want to be, and then from there, you're able to say, okay, these are the actions that are coming up for me. It's call Bobby. I haven't talked to Bobby in a long time, and I don't know why that's coming up, but it's call Bobby and talk to him about this company. That's probably all you needed to do that day, right? The rest of the stuff is like stuff that we just force and effort and push ourselves into doing instead of just those few aligned actions that, whatever your spiritual background, you can just call it intuition. You can call it God, universe, source, is asking you to do today. What's your intuition guiding you to do today? Yeah. And then just don't go on Facebook ever.
Yeah, really. Oh, looks like a couple more came through Q&A. Oh, your thoughts on a vision board?
Oh, yeah, it's really funny. I don't actually teach vision boards, and it's come up a couple times in the last couple of days, which is really interesting. I think any way you can get in touch with your subconscious is great. The one caveat I would always advise for a vision board is that you're only putting things on there that feel really good for you, that are really not like if you don't want a Mercedes, don't put a Mercedes on there. Don't put those luxury goods that you think you're supposed to put on there because that's what symbolizes success. Like, put what feels good to you. Like, for me, it would be like a bunch of crystals and a bunch of like hippie retreats, like I don't want a Mercedes. I don't even want that on my vision board, but like, if that's you, cool. So what I'm saying is that's really a space where you don't want to put any of those shoulds. Don't put any of anybody else's beliefs around what's supposed to be there. Oops. Waleed is asking, what's the vision you're mentioning? Yeah, so in the very beginning, I asked everybody to go out 3 years in the future and really write down your ideal life. What does that look like? Who are you surrounded by? What kind of work are you doing? What is your beautiful vision for 3 years from now? And just, step into that as much as you can, like all the details. So that's the vision we were talking about.
And another one, what if you're not fond of journaling and writing things down? How can one motivate themselves to do it?
You can hack it a little bit with a guided meditation. There's a bunch on YouTube, and I can send you guys one of mine too. But you can do some like abundance meditations, abundance guided meditations. You can just listen to somebody guide you through that, and they'll be helping you to vision that ideal world for yourself. Bob Proctor has one, I think, on YouTube. Austin says, yes, please. I think that was in response to the abundance meditation. Yeah. So you can do a hack. Like I said, if you don't want to journal, I highly, highly recommend it. But if you don't want to, you could do a little bit of a guided meditation and, have somebody walk you through it for 10 minutes or so. That could be one way. You won't get into all of your own personal subconscious blocks, though, if you skip the journaling process.
The same attendee said, what was the name? Bob. It said Bob Proctor, right?
Bob Proctor has one. He does like a little mini I can write it in the chat too. He does like a mini self-hypnosis okay, let's see. His name's Bob Proctor.
And Ashok said, that's great, Erin, thanks.
It's weird. I can't see the same thing as you're seeing. It's really funny.
Gotcha. Over in the Q&A?
Yeah. My last one is from Alton that says, yes, please. So maybe I'm just behind.
Oh, I don't see Alton's. The fun mysteries of Zoom.
The fun of Zoom. I think we've all been learning some stuff.
Yes.
Yes, and Suzanne said, deep breath, I can do it. Yes, you can. Yay. Yes. You guys can all do it. Whatever you're.
Do you see Jerry's question?
Nope.
It says, how difficult is it switching careers? I'm having difficulty breaking ground. What's the first step towards the right direction?
Well, I have a really woo-woo response to that, which is just really asking your heart, like where you're being guided. I think I'm never the person who's like, quit your day job and, move to Tibet, because I think it puts a lot of pressure on moving to Tibet. If you're trying to follow your passion right now, it's really hard if you quit the day job to follow the passion, because then you're putting a lot of need around that passion. Like you have this need right away to create income, right? For most of us, if we don't have the trust fund, then you have that need right away. Okay, I got to create the income so I can pay my bills, right? So I think there's this nice kind of bridge space where you're, maybe finding a different career path for right now that lets you follow your passion, whatever that is, and do that work a little bit on the side for a while, even if that's only 3 months, until you get that sense of confidence, like, okay, this I can do, it's making me money, I can pay my bills, unless you have enough savings to do that, then cool, quit the day job. But I think it's always hard when you put so much pressure around your fledgling business. It can really kill the joy really quickly. And then you start doing that stuff where you take on clients that you don't really love just because you want to pay the bills. And then you get down this whole rabbit hole that you don't want to do, because then it feels like a job.
It also, I think, can be iterative too, to pivot, right? It's not always like, oh, and now I'm 100% this. Sometimes it's incremental and in little steps. So.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes, Mary. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And I think to add to that, like, even once you sort of fully become an entrepreneur, like you're continually, people love the word pivot, you're continually pivoting, but they might be, like you said, these micro shifts all the time, right? Like, maybe huge shifts, but usually like a lot of micro shifts of like, oh, I don't really like working with clients. I don't really like working with that kind of energy. So I'm going to shift over here a little bit. And then, 2 years later, you've gone full 180, but yeah, totally.
Which one do you see next? I know we're seeing different things.
It's really weird. Maybe I have my thing set weirdly.
The last Barbara. One is,
nope.
No, okay.
Mark B said, thanks for the work, good timing, and great service to the community. Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay, I see that in the chat. I have the Q&A box open.
Oh, that's why. Oh my gosh, there's multiple boxes.
I know. Sorry. Zoom, it gets us all good.
But I've never seen a Q&A box.
Yes, we get to see the Q&A. It's a lot of fun.
This is brilliant. Oh, okay. And you can do anonymous. Okay, thoughts on affirmations. We don't think we talked about that one. Thoughts on affirmations. Yeah, so that's what we were kind of talking about when I was saying shifting the thought. Those were a sneaky way of saying affirmations. So you want them to be really specific, really present tense, and really powerful. Here's the trick with affirmations. Yes, they can work if you just keep repeating them, repeating them, repeating them. Yes, because then your subconscious has time to process them and like really start believing it. The key is, you know, I'm going to use the 50K example again. If your affirmation is, I'm earning 50K every month easily. If you're saying that to yourself and your subconscious is like, oh my God, dude, you're only earning $200 a month. Like you are so far off of that. Then every time you repeat that affirmation, your subconscious is having a chance to like have that little argument with you. And so it's helpful there to, especially around the financial goals, this is where it usually comes up the most. It's helpful there to kind of baby step your way into that affirmation. Something like, I'm in the process of becoming a 50K per month earner, or I am open to becoming a 50K per month earner. That's one way to do the baby step. The second way is, you know, maybe make your goal feel like a stretch, but not a splatter. Meaning if you really are only earning $200 a month, 50K is going to seem really huge, right? So maybe something that's more like 2K, you know, like it's a stretch from where you are right now. And it should feel good and exciting, but it's not going to be like totally knock your subconscious out there. Yeah. Okay.
I've got Barbara on the
Barbara.
top.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm 6. Now I see it.
Oh, you.
Yeah. I'm 60 years old, feel so much older than most other interview applicants. Now with using Zoom so much, my appearance just seems so important. Do you have any ideas how to deal with this specific problem? Mary, maybe you can speak to that because I think there's, okay, well, here's what I will offer is I have this amazing thing called a ring light that makes my skin look younger. I am so obsessed with ring lights. I think they're amazing. You can get one for like $10 on Amazon and they help so much. I think you probably meant from the mindset side, but that is a really awesome, like practical tip of they help and they make your skin look dewy and younger and I'm sure you're beautiful anyway. So I guess what I would embody there from the mindset side is like, look, if they're a company that looks at you and says, oh my God, she's 60 and we don't want her here, like, do you really want to work there? Like, I don't. That sounds like an awful company. You want to work with a place that's like totally aligned with you, totally like she is awesome. Look at all this experience she's bringing to the table. Look at all this knowledge and wisdom and beauty she's bringing to the table. You know, that's the company you want to work for. So just fully knowing that, look, the right company is out there for me, you know, and they're going to love all parts of me and a ring light. So would be my thought. Mary, do you have more? Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I know in a hiring process, one, legally they can't discriminate based on age, gender, you know, sexual orientation, you know, cultural background, whatever it is. Companies are legally not allowed to discriminate based on, you know, a number of different characteristics that make us all uniquely wonderful. But if you find yourself feeling subconscious knowing you're on video and being seen and it makes you respond thinking that there is a, you know, potential ageism that would keep them from wanting to hire you, I would request a call-in number and not even have a camera and have a phone conversation like old school. I think, you know, I don't know if they could force someone to be on video, but if it puts you at ease and allows you to be your best self in that interview and to not be distracted by this sort of I guess digital face-to-face awkwardness that we're all sort of, I think, learning to cope with. It's still weird for me too, and I've been on Zoom forever. But yeah, for one, I guess create a safe space. I think you have definitely the ability to call in from your phone on Zoom rather than having that video interview. But Erin, what you said is great too. Like the company that accepts you like where you are and accepts who you are and, you know, sees your age of 60 as being a blessing and seeing all the wisdom and experience you could bring, that's where you want to work. If they're a company that's going to treat you otherwise, it probably won't be a healthy environment and there may be more ageism you'd have to experience on the job. Did you have any other thoughts on that one?
No, I think those were some great points. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. So I see Kevin next. Is that right? Any tips for keeping this long term, especially if reaching a goal is taking longer than expected? maybe Kevin, you can drop in there a little bit about what that goal specifically is. Goals are really interesting because, how should I put this? A lot of times we've defined those goals as things that we think we're supposed to be doing, there are those noises that come from the outside. Like, for instance, in the coaching world that I'm in, there's so much around like the 10K month, the 20K month, the 6-figure year, it's huge. It's like all over. And I think a lot of industries are like that. And so, but those are like those outside noises of what we're supposed to be doing right now. Like maybe success, or maybe your goal looks very, very different for you than it does for everybody else. And so I don't know what your personal story is, but maybe that goal that you're chasing isn't something that you really want, maybe, and if it is, if like, okay, deep down inside, this is something I truly, truly want, just do that list again. What are the reasons I'm not there? Here's a really great twist to this. What are the positive benefits to staying right where I am? Right? So if we hit that goal, what does that mean would change? What are all the crazy things that would change for you if you actually hit that goal? Maybe it's cooler to stay right where you are. I was doing this work with a client the other day, and she was saying, we were talking about she wanted more clients, right? And so we were looking at, okay, what are the positive benefits to staying right where you are? And she was saying, well, shit, if I had more clients, I have to put my kid on the iPad all day, and I really don't want to do that, right? And so consciously she was saying, okay, I really want more clients, but then her subconscious was like, well, that sucks, because then you're going to have to put the kids on the iPad, and you don't like doing that, and they're already on the screens all day long, and then you're going to have all this stressful energy of scheduling your clients and right? So yes, consciously you can be like, yeah, that's my goal and I want to be there, but what are you going to have to give up to get there? Maybe again, it's I gotta give up my weekends, or I gotta give up my time with my kids, or I gotta give up my time watching Netflix, right? Like, I'm not done with Tiger King yet. I don't want to give that up, whatever. I am done with Tiger King. But, what are your positive benefits to staying right where you are? That question will pull up all the reasons, right? Because that'll be what your subconscious is saying about, like, oh, this is what it's going to take to get to that next level. And those things suck. So I'm not going to do them. No, thanks. Yeah. How can we overcome feeling like we don't have the right connections, mentors to achieve our goals? Well, you can always hire a coach. We exist. I do think there's a coach for everything. So wherever you are, I do think there's exactly a coach for that person. In terms of the connections, I think we don't usually think of our network in exactly the right way when we're first starting this. And I also think it's a really great goal to just start saying, I'm open to new connections. I'm open to growing my network, and looking for those places where you can start growing those connections. And I know for me, when I first started my business, I did not feel like I had this huge network. I was in corporate. And so everybody I knew was like corporate type, and they're not going to want to be, I was doing life coaching when I first started. They're not going to want a life coach, right? I had all these ideas about that. That were wrong. They were limiting beliefs of my own. So I would say you probably have a lot more of those connections than you think you do already. And at the same time, that's definitely a cool place to grow. That's definitely a cool place where all of us, that's how every business grows, is being out there connecting with people on some level. And again, when you start saying to yourself, I am a person who has lots of connections, right? Then that starts to become true for you, and you start to create those valuable relationships. And even growing from your current network is, I think most of us don't think we have that network, and we do. A lot of us, we do. We just have to start, opening up to it a little bit.
And I would love to say to that too, like having worked with a lot of our students who are in that season of transition or working towards goals, and I've had that same question, well, I don't know any of these people, and how can I get to this place that they feel so other from or so outside of? It's like, well, we have this beautiful resource, and I make a plug for it constantly, but LinkedIn is like the most wonderful place to meet people that you admire or look up to or would love to get under and learn from. I cannot tell you the number of strangers I have messaged on LinkedIn asking to grab coffee. So be safe, don't put yourself in danger. I'm not saying go get coffee with a million strangers, but it could even be a phone call like, hey, your work with this company is really inspiring, or I think this is really cool. I would love just to learn more about what you're doing. And don't be afraid to look for those people if they're not already in your network, and reach out. And you'd be surprised how many people are willing just to take 15 minutes of their day to talk about what they're doing or share resources with you. And that's personally been instrumental, for my growth. And it's helped so many of our students and graduates get to where they want to be as well. So.
Yeah. And Suzanne, like you said, even those really like people you don't think are going to take the time of day. I mean, I had that experience at a conference with this really, really big time investor. And I just reached out to her afterwards and said, hey, we didn't chat, but she took like 45 minutes of her time, and this is like billionaire investor level, and just took 45 minutes of her time to chat with me. And it was like, oh, sweet. Awesome. Well, I don't have anything for you to invest in right now, but someday. Yeah. How can we, okay. What's the scariest move you made in your career that later increased your income? Honestly, every time I raise my prices, it feels really scary to me, and it always increases my income. So I guess leaving corporate and then coming into the coaching world, this year will be the first year that I've made more than I did in corporate. And like I said, the scariest part of that has been raising my prices each time. Like, here's what it looks like to coach with me. It's X. And every time I raise them, I always feel like, oh my God, no one's ever going to pay this. No one's ever going to show up again. So that always feels scary. I do all my work around it. So that, for me personally, that's always been the scariest. I don't know, Mary, if you've got something scary there.
Not as much personally. I haven't been in the consulting space for a while, but I had a conversation with a friend of mine who owns his own business, and he gave me almost like the tough love, like dad style conversation. All these women I know who work for themselves, and granted, I work for TTS. This is an earlier season of life before I was where I am now. He was saying all of these women I know who work for themselves are getting underpaid, and they won't raise their rates because they don't think that they deserve it, or they feel like they owe other people a favor, or it's their job to make things easy for other people, when at the end of the day, they're better at their jobs than so many other people who are charging 2 or 3 times as much for the same service and getting paid that much to do so. So it's a matter of stepping back and removing all of these beliefs and like these lies, honestly, about your worth, and saying, okay, what value am I providing, and doing the research to say, okay, what's the industry standard around this, and what is, don't be crazy and charge $50 million for an hour of your time if that's not where you are. Make sure that what you're charging is competitive and fair, and remove all that doubt that says you're not enough. And you were saying a lot about believing you are, and dispelling some of those myths by creating a different narrative for yourself. Long-winded answer, but do the research and believe you're worth it.
Right. And I think pricing is one of the biggest places, especially women, like your dad said, like especially women. I don't know why, but that's where we hold ourselves back the most, and I would offer, Mary, maybe don't even do your research, because if you're a massage therapist and you look at all the other massage therapists in your town and they're only charging $100 an hour, like, don't you want to be the most well-paid massage therapist in the town? Like,
touché.
I mean, yeah, we could this is a whole nother webinar. Pricing is its own webinar for sure. But yeah, I would just say to you guys, like what Mary said, you're so worth it. Charge more than you think.
I had this conversation too. We hosted a freelancer panel and we asked this, like, how do you go about determining your worth, and how do you determine what to charge hourly, or all of that? And every time I've had this conversation on a panel with a group of freelancers, they always say, like, I wish people would be more transparent about their rates. I don't understand why there's this sort of secrecy around, what do I charge? What do you charge? And they all just, not that they were prompted to and it wasn't a question, but they all looked at each other and just willingly offered up what they're charging hourly, saying, hey, I wish that everyone would share this information so nobody would be undercutting themselves, or, you know, not that you have to do what every other massage therapist in your neighborhood is doing, but just sort of dispelling this idea that it's something we can't talk about or shouldn't talk about, that it's something wrong to talk about money.
Yes. You're speaking my language. Yeah. Yeah. It's really funny we're having this conversation right now, because I just went back like in the last week and put my pricing back on my website, you know, because what kept happening for me was people would get on like a discovery call with me and they would have no idea what my pricing is. And then we'd have this really great conversation. We'd get to the end of it and they'd be like, oh, I can't afford you. And I'm like, okay. You know, so I really want people to know, like, let's be upfront. Like you said, I want you to know. And then, you know, we can talk through it. It doesn't mean, you know, it has to be this big scary thing, but like, I want you to know now, you know? So anyway,
Sure.
What if you're at a place where you can't answer the first question, where do I want to be 3 years from now? How do you start that process? Yeah. So, yeah, it's so funny to me because I'm trying to decide how woo-woo I want to get and be with you guys. Maybe do this right before you go to bed. Just close your eyes and just kind of ask your intuition, hey, can you give me some answers? You know, can you help me out here? I'm really not able to see clearly what I want in my life. And you may have to ask this a few nights in a row, but you're going to get your answer either in a dream or when you wake up the next morning. You know how you have that like fuzzy time when you wake up in the mornings, and that's when your conscious mind has totally released. It's been like asleep all night. Your conscious mind gets to sleep and you get to wake up and step really into that intuition level. And again, if you do that for a couple nights in a row, you're going to get some sort of answer, you know. And what I personally believe is happening there is that I feel that we all know intuitively what we want to be doing, but there has been so much outside messaging and programming for many years. I don't know how old you are. I'm 41. There's been 41 years of programming of other people telling me, oh, you can't do that thing you want to do, right? So that, again, like takes over. The fears take over. And even if we kind of know which direction we want to head in, our conscious mind is like, why'd you get that MBA then? You know, you don't need that to be a massage therapist, for instance, or whatever. And so your conscious mind is creating usually a lot of fear around what it is that you really want to do. So any chance, if you do already meditate, that's a great place to ask that question. But if you don't, just ask right before you go to bed. Dear intuition, what can you show me? What can you open up for me along my path? And again, that might be in a dream, that might be when you wake up, and you might have to ask it a couple times, but something will definitely show up for you. Okay. So can you repeat what you said about if our subconscious feels we will lose friends if we make $50K a month? How do we overcome that? Well, the first way is you wrote that down. So you already know that it's there. You're welcome, Manish. Yes, Elliot, thank you guys. So if our subconscious believes we will lose friends if we make $50K a month, how do we overcome that? Again, you wrote it down. You already know it's there. That's cool. That's really, really powerful. One of the ways that I release that is just sitting with it in my body. You know, I really just sit with that feeling in my body. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose friends. If I make $50K a month, I'm going to lose friends. And I can feel right now, like my stomach clenches up when I say that. And so just really allowing yourself to really feel it and then release it. And then you do that whole process again. You repeat it to yourself. You kind of feel where it is in your body. Again, for me, that's usually my stomach. I can kind of feel it clenching up around a belief. I fully feel it. And then I just ask it to release. And I just keep repeating that process. That's like a somatic way of processing through your subconscious stuff. When I work one-on-one with clients, I do this process called tapping, which you're literally like tapping on these acupressure points. You guys can look it up on YouTube if you're interested, but that's another way to release it. Again, somatic processing through of the stuff that's in your head. So yeah, hope that was helpful. Okay. Once last fall, Barbara says, when I was working on a team, this really nice guy said, I look like I'm still 35. He was exaggerating, but maybe I should think about that moment when I go into an interview. Oh my God, yes.
100%, Barbara.
Perfect. Channel her. Yes, exactly. Okay. Kevin says, specifically looking for a job that's going to pay more and have a more supportive team too. If I could just be done with recruiters and interviews, that would also be nice. Okay. Is that a question? Oh, I think that was an answer to, gosh, the question I posed to you, Kevin. Sorry. Do you remember what my question to him was by any chance? I don't think we wrote it down.
Let's see. I'm checking through the chat to see if it was written down.
I don't think it was in the chat. It was in the Q&A part, I think. Sorry, Kevin. I think I had asked you a question. That was your response, but I can't remember. So maybe you were asking something around an affirmation there. For me, I would take that thought like, oh God, I just really want to be done with recruiters and interviews. Like, oh, yuck, that feels so heavy. That feels so yucky, right? And I would just flip that into, you know, I'm finding the exact perfect job for me in a way that feels really easy and fun and light. And keep repeating that to yourself until it feels really true, you know? And also kind of, this is a little bit off topic, but just asking yourself, how could I make this easier and lighter? Like, what are some ways I could make it easier and lighter? You know, maybe that's you take your next interview outside, you know, or you make sure you schedule them all on a Friday so you can have something to look forward to or something. You know, how would it feel easier and lighter for you? And again, you know, flipping that around, flipping that story around that these are really hard and they feel icky and uncomfortable, flipping that into, you know what, I'm landing the perfect job for me in a way that feels really easy and light and fun.
And I found the question, it was in response to any tips for keeping at this long term, especially if reaching a goal is taking longer than expected.
All right. Okay. And that goal was looking for the job. Yeah. So that's a space that probably, again, I don't know you, but that's a space that probably where looking for the job itself feels really heavy and like really like needy and like, oh, I got to find this new job. Oh, I got to find a job that pays me more, right? And when we're bringing that energy to it, first of all, the other people on the other side feel that, but secondly, you're feeling that, right? And you're feeling that way. And it's sending out an energy of lack to the universe. It's saying, I don't have that thing and I really want it. And so, again, I'm getting pretty woo-woo here, but like the universe is hearing you say, lack, 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 lack. I have the lack of this thing. I don't have the thing. Right? I don't feel like I have this thing. All I have is the lack of it. And so it's sending you more lack. It's sending you more wanting of it, more needing of it. Instead of, if you're fully in that space of like, yeah, I got this, man. I got this new job. I feel that. It might not be here yet, but I feel it's here, right? The more you can embody that, like really feeling like it's already here. What does that look like? What does it smell like, you know, like all those feelings of it fully being present for you, and the universe is going to deliver that because you're already in that energy. Again,
funny encouragement related to that. If Kevin, if this helps make that any more real and less woo-woo for you, before, for real though, there's 100% truth behind it. Before I started with TTS, I was thinking to myself, okay, like I liked what I was doing a lot at the time, but I was starting to daydream about what would my next season look like. And I wrote it down, Erin. I wrote it down and I made a list, and it was funny. It was involving working with other people and using equally parts creative and, you know, logistic thinking and being in a place with lots of light and plants, and it was just like all these specific details. And out of nowhere, I'm already picturing this future, imagining like, yeah, that would be great. This is what I want. This is totally me. And it just felt very yes, like this is my next step. I get a message on LinkedIn from somebody who works with CTS. I didn't even know they were in New Orleans. I wasn't familiar with the company. And within a week, I'd gone through all the interview process and started working with them. And I show up on the first day. And for those of y'all tuned in who are in New Orleans, I walk into the warehouse or co-working space. It is bright, giant ceiling windows, plants that are like 6 feet tall everywhere. And my whole job was to the T everything I'd written on this dream list. And I wasn't hitting the pavement digging for this opportunity. It literally just came to me after sitting and saying, okay, yeah, this is what resonates with my spirit, and this is the direction I'm going. I don't know when or how. And it didn't look anything like what I would have imagined getting there, but and there's absolutely truth behind what you're saying. And it might sound woo-y, but give it a shot, Kevin. And I think you'll be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can take out the words universe and all that stuff and just say like, how it feels when the needy guy hits on you or needy girl hits on you at the bar, right? This is a long time ago for me, but like, that energy, when you have that energy and you're putting out that energy, again, I don't know if that's the case, but then people respond to that and they don't respond in the right way. They're like, oh no, you can't buy me a drink, right? Like, no, you can't have this job. No, like, it's just that natural, people feel it. I heard somebody say once, like, imagine that your thoughts are being broadcast on your forehead all the time, because they are. Like, everywhere you go, what you're thinking is really being broadcast in your energy. Like, people sense that. Like, they sense the needy guy. They sense when somebody's nervous. They sense when you sense when somebody doesn't want to be there, right? Those people that are working in a space that they don't want to be there. You know who they are without them saying a word, right? And so we bring that same energy to our interviews. So I think what Mary said about like journaling it and really creating it, what we were doing in the beginning of this, like, what does that look like for you? And really just being in that energy of like curiosity and, okay, this could happen. That'd be amazing. That's a really cool place to be. And then people are going to really pick up on that too, for sure. So Jerry said, is it better to set short-term goals or set daily goals in order to reach your journey? I think I might need a little bit more clarification on that. If you could, Jerry, just if you're still here, if you could just elaborate on what you mean by that. Yeah, if you could just elaborate. If we're talking specifically about financial, yeah, just maybe, do you have any thoughts on that, Mary?
I mean, I'm the nerdiest goal setter in the universe, but for me, it starts with, okay, like, what is that dream that I think would be great? An example, beginning of last year, I've hated running my whole life. And I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to do this thing that's always scared me. And I'm going to set what at the time felt like this massive goal, which was to run a whole mile without stopping. And for myself, I'd set these little goals to help me reach that goal. It's like, okay, you're going to go at least once a week. And every time you go, you're going to set these little milestones, like, okay, girl, get to that tree. And then I make it to the tree, like, okay, go a little bit farther to the bench. And it progressed. And within a month, I was running a mile. And it's like, okay, great. What's the next goal? So I set a goal to hit 3 miles in a certain amount of time, and would create smaller goals to help myself reach that big picture in my mind of what I thought was achievement or what I wanted or what would, bring me fulfillment in my physical fitness. So for me, it's both. I set long-term goals, and then I set smaller bite-sized ones that'll help me get to that place, whether that's daily or like weekly or whatever the cadence is. Like, it might not be overnight if you're trying to make 50K a month, or if you're trying to do something that takes, a certain amount of muscle to build, whether it's physical or, a metaphysical muscle, you know what I mean? I would love to hear more thoughts, Jerry, too, just what you mean by short-term or daily goals on your journey.
Yeah, that can help us clarify. Jessica says, what about the pressure one feels to name that passion? I've had jobs with the purpose of only supporting myself. I now find myself unemployed yet again and don't want to keep looking for the same thing. Where do you start when you've not had a passion you've wanted to follow from the start? Yeah. And so again, I kind of would I don't remember whose question it was, that we were talking about this just a few questions ago, in terms of, I usually believe that it's fear of what would happen if you actually follow the passion. So just asking that intuition, what would I kind of like to do? Maybe it's not like I have to have this big, huge passion for it, but like, what would I just kind of really like to do right now? I think when we put words like my soul purpose, my life purpose, my huge passion, I think when we put words like that around it, it makes it, it's almost like, well, if I don't find my soul's purpose, then screw it, I'll just take any job, I'll just work at McDonald's, right? Because like, if I haven't found my soul's passion, it's kind of like the whole thing about the soulmate. Like, oh, if I don't find my soulmate, just no one will work, right? When you could really be married to a great partner, right? So I would just release that sort of pressure around yourself to have it defined as the thing, as the passion, because again, like what we were talking about, what Mary and I were talking about with the pivoting and stuff, I know for me personally, I started off like, I'm a life coach and I'm only going to work with moms, and this is what it's going to look like. And I started realizing like, oh no, this is what it looks like. I love entrepreneurs. That's actually been the case for, 4 years. Like, I love that work. And so I didn't have to keep that name, right? I didn't have to keep that definition, that title, that role, but I just kept slowly moving into more and more of what I did like. And you can do that from here. Again, like, what do I kind of like right now? What would kind of feel good? Again, it doesn't have to be like this huge passion, the huge soul purpose, the huge life purpose. And if you miss it, then you're screwed. Like, you're never screwed. You always get a second chance. You always have that chance to go back and, well, not go back, but go forward and find the new path. And what a lot of coaches call it is following the breadcrumbs. Like, where's that next little breadcrumb, And maybe the next little breadcrumb is just, oh, I just want to go to this different yoga class. I mean, maybe it's an online yoga class right now, but like, I just want to go to this yoga class. I don't know why, like, but there at the yoga class, you meet this woman who tells you about like, oh, I was at a glass blowing event on Friday. And you're like, oh my God, glass blowing. I'd love to go see people blowing glass. And then you go to the glass blowing and you're like, oh my God, I've always wanted to do this. And you start taking classes. And 5 years from now, you're like world renowned glass blower, right? And whatever. But like, it's just following those next little breadcrumbs. Okay, what would feel good? What would feel interesting? What would feel good right now? And without having to put all that pressure on yourself. And you can also do that same exercise too, if you're interested, just asking your intuition at night for just a few nights in a row, like, hey, can you give me some guidance here? Like, I'm lost. Like, can you just drop me a hint? That'd be helpful. But like I said, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself there, because no one's going to be able to tell you what that looks like 5 years from now. You'll have no idea. You'll be in such a different place that you never could have even imagined. So you don't want to have to like define it in this stringent way.
Looks like Jerry added some clarity around this question. He said, I heard different things about setting goals, heard some create 5-year goals and some set daily goals to get to their destination. Hope that clears things.
Mary, you want to grab that one? I think you said you have a lot of goal setting.
Honestly, I would just go back to the same thing. I mean, pulling back and saying, okay, what's the idea for what is this thing I want to accomplish? And then break it into smaller pieces. And I think it's the same, I guess, strategy I'd use for problem solving too, right? Like, I have to create this huge thing. Okay, what parts go into that huge thing? And how do I arrive at each of those parts? And starting with a big picture and pulling back to details. And then also have a little bit of grace. It's okay to miss the mark and fail and have an off day, or, there were days last year where I didn't go running. And I think if you beat yourself up for not being perfect, that can almost be more destructive than not setting goals. But also celebrate the little wins. If you hit one of those little mini milestones, do something that brings you joy to keep yourself motivated and remind yourself why you're doing all these little things, and if it's a vision board or if it's journaling or whatever it is for you, keep that big end goal in sight when you're walking out that little process. But also sort of tying into that iterative, just almost like process of discovery we were talking about. I think it's also okay to get, on your way to reaching a goal and pivot, because we're in a world that's changing constantly. We're changing constantly as people, and it's okay if your 5-year plan isn't the same 3 years from now. If you've been working towards that goal that's 5 years out, and you get halfway there and you realize, well, actually I'd really rather go this way, or this feels more natural. Don't be afraid to shift and adjust those goals as needed. I have my only other advice there for 5-year plans.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of what I call taking 3 aligned actions every day. They're usually actions that put you out in front of people. They're usually actions where you have to reach out and say like, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's awesome. So they're scary a lot of times. But if you're taking those really aligned actions, again, if you do any sort of meditative process in the morning, just spending 5 minutes in your vision, that 5-year vision, the 3-year vision, right? That really far out vision. And then what are the actions that come from there? Okay, I did those today. Cool. We're good. Because your goals aren't going to look like anybody else's. They're just not, they can't, despite what the internet gurus will tell you. So, yeah.
I think those were the last questions.
Okay, cool.
Anybody else have any more? I know we went a little over.
Oh, did we? Yeah.
Okay.
This
was awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys. And I'll invite you. I don't know where you guys all are in your process, but I have a Facebook group called the 6-Figure Spiritualpreneurs. It's for men and women, though I would say it's predominantly women, but it's definitely for both. And we talk a lot about mindset and manifesting and all the woo-woo stuff. If that feels like you, come join us. We'd love to have you there, and just kind of let me know that you came from Tech Talent Startup. I would love to hear you guys. And otherwise, you can find me on erinnewman.com, and I just love to hear from you guys and hear, kind of what this pulls up for you over the next couple of days, because I feel like this work always really unfolds over a few days for sure.
And if you have any resources, Erin, you want me to send to everyone, just shoot me an email and I'll make sure that I include it in their follow-up thank you, so they have all your links and resources.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll drop my abundance meditation in there for you guys, and then I have some more woo-woo stuff too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time and for putting this together. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank
you. For
you
everyone
all.
who tuned in, thank you also. We spent an hour and a half almost with us, so we don't take it lightly. Fun. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for naming that, Mary. That's very true. Like, I'm really appreciative of everybody here. So great. I'm going to start journaling. Yay! Yay!
Oh, yay! Little wins.
That's right. Little wins.
Awesome. Very cool.
Okay.
Well, it's good to see y'all, and hope to see you at the next one.
That's right. Thanks everybody.